All right, guys. So ceasefire talks came to a success with Israel and Hezbollah, guys. So there's officially a 60-day ceasefire. Will it last? Who knows? We know Netanyahu and his cabinet members. They are war hungry guys. This could be an opportunity for them to rearm, and hopefully it lasts, guys. There's really no point in having that war expand any further, and Europe is now bracing for a World War III, guys. There has been reports coming out of different European countries where they're making, creating bomb shelters. They're getting certain businesses and stuff like that ready for a huge missile strike coming from Russia. Putin is all gas, no play, guys. And let's get into this clip here, guys. So Donald Trump, again, he's making all these crappy cabinet picks here. He's all the warmongers and warhawks in Washington D.C. are now working for Trump. So the guy's either a full-blown liar or he's mentally handicapped, because everybody that he's picking all the wrong people that are pro-war neocon. So either or, the guy's either was lying the entire time, he just fooled the entire American people into thinking that he's the guy that's going to end all the wars, right? Or he's obviously not mentally stable, because the picks he's had is just unreal, man.
See these people working with Donald Trump.
Look at this guy. Take a look at this guy, Gorka, man. Holy crap.
For the peace in the Middle East. He's not interested in a war in the Middle East. But how is he able to do that with these people?
Administration swinging
Listen to this guy.
sanctions that brought the regime practically to the brink of economic collapse, and that's when the people can take over. In the meantime, the International Court of Human Rights has put out a warrant for Bibi Netanyahu and his Minister of Defense, because Jews, right? Jews. How interesting that the Arab wife of George Clooney was heavily involved in that decision. The left, they're the anti-Semites. No, sorry. They're the Jew haters. Just look at the campuses across America. Look at the squad. We stand by you, Israel. Do what needs to be done, especially when it comes to the biggest sponsor of state terrorism, Iran.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to be as blunt as possible. Donald Trump is either a fool or a liar. He ran on a promise not to go to war. He said, I won't get you in war. We'll have peace. Peace will break out. He made certain statements about, talking about normalizing relations with Iran, not seeking regime change, looking for the potential to lift sanctions. He made the same statement about Russia and Ukraine. And then he hires a national security advisor, Michael Waltz, who's just a lunatic on both issues. A Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who is a lunatic on both issues. And then this Sebastian Gorka comes in, who's literally insane. I mean, the man is, you saw this. This is not the language of somebody who's supposed to be advising the president, whose policies are leaning towards peace. He's a warmonger. So is Michael Waltz, so is Marco Rubio. And Donald Trump is making the same mistake that he made last time, surrounding himself with people who seek confrontation. It's not a mistake if you do it twice. Fool me once, shame on me. But fool me twice, won't get fooled again. That's making fun of George W. Bush. But this is stunning. Disappointment, and the fact that he's allowing Gorka to say these things now. Because remember, you saw Mike Huckabee come on and say, I'm not the ambassador, I haven't been done it, I don't speak on behalf of the administration. But that he knows he's going to be put before the Senate for confirmation hearings. So he's very careful in what he says. This is a good thing.
Yeah, so this guy Gorka, man, he's going to be actually the senior director for counterterrorism on Trump. This guy has written official books, like anti-Islamic books, like that's what he's known for. They say he's like his views on Islam are like absolutely radical, you know, to the point where he's kind of like a Nazi type character when it comes to that. So, you know, God knows what his policies towards Iran are and what he has in mind. You know, this guy's just and the worst part about it, he's a dual citizen. I thought Trump was Mr. We're not going to allow dual citizens serving in the cabinet. You know, this guy's a Hungarian. He's not even American. He was never even raised in America. He was raised in the United Kingdom and Hungary, right? And I'm pretty sure he's an undercover J, if you guys know what I mean. He's definitely an undercover J. You know, using like a European last name. Like, bro, it's just mind-boggling with this Donald Trump guy, bro. I don't understand the moves that he's making. So I'm putting it as either the dude's retarded or he's sitting here lying to us and he's laughing at the American people, man. I don't think he's playing the game like people think he is. Anyways, guys, so ceasefire with Hezbollah and Israel. You know, great for the Lebanese people. They're gonna, you know, at least be able to go back to their homes, live in some peace for at least for 60 days. We know Netanyahu's a maniac, so we're not expecting nothing less of, you know, him trying to. You know, this seems like more of like let's rearm, re-strategize, which I don't know what strategy he has because they're completely getting decimated in southern Lebanon, absolutely shredded into pieces, right? So I don't know what type of strategy that Netanyahu's trying to implement other than more decimation and destruction. And, you know, people are saying, oh, well, you know, the images we're seeing of buildings falling and shit like that in Lebanon, and we're seeing they're wreaking havoc on civilian buildings. You know, that's fine, guys. Like, Lebanon's one of those countries that's been in war for years. You know, they've had wars since the 70s and 80s. And the population there is accustomed to that. Now, Tel Aviv, you know, them firing missiles and rockets at Tel Aviv, that is absolutely not what the Europeans of Israel, the outsiders, came to live in this nation for, this nation of milk and honey. They didn't come there and to see a rocket even getting past Haifa, for that matter, right? Their missile barrages are hitting Tel Aviv, central Israel, right? Tech capital of the world. So this guy's absolutely remedial if he thinks that he's going to re-strategize and somehow, you know, continue this, because this is even the guys, the nut jobs like Ben Gvir, like that insane nut job who's probably never experienced any violence in his entire life. He's even come out and said, yeah, we should go ahead and go with the ceasefire and let's just isolate, you know, Gaza for the time being and focus on Iran and all that shit. Man, and the Israelis, the far-right Zionists, like this beast right here, guys. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this guy. This guy's name is Jonathan Pollard, right? This guy was sentenced to life in prison for violations of the Espionage Act. He is a United States citizen, went to Stanford University, former intelligence analyst, and he gave top secret classified information to Israel. Let's see here. Sold numerous state secrets, including the National Security Agency's 10-volume manual on how the U.S. gathers its signal intelligence, disclosed the names of 10,000 people who had cooperated with U.S. intelligence agencies. And this is the crazy part, guys. Like, this guy is, from what I've heard, people in Israel run up to him and kiss his hand, right? Like, this guy's seen as a hero in Israel, and apparently there are allies, right, quote unquote. So he makes a comment here. Let's get into what he had to say. So he's absolutely livid that Netanyahu had accepted the ceasefire proposal. Let's get into what he had to say. This is pretty interesting here.
A ceasefire, and there is rejoicing in one city in particular, Sidon. They're out in the street celebrating that Biden and Macron are now taking the center stage and taking credit, so to speak, for ending the war. I want to be very clear about one thing. This is an act of high treason on the part of Bibi Netanyahu. There is no other way for me to understand what he did except to say that he is a traitor to Israel and to all of the men and women in uniform who have fallen in that war, in this war right now. He has betrayed the country, he has betrayed the army, and he
Why,
those who have fallen in defense of Israel.
why,
He is
why
totally,
do you
he
think
is,
Netanyahu has agreed to the ceasefire, which of course we both know, all of us know, will not lead to anything at all, will before too long will collapse?
utterly collapse. It's collapsed tonight. Because as all of us know, by surviving,
Yeah.
Hezbollah wins. They win.
And that's what people don't get. Hey, he makes a profound point. Like, you know, the sheer survival of Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is not as technologically advanced as Israel, doesn't have NATO and the United States and the West, and an unlimited credit card, unlimited credit from the Vatican Church, right, to fucking weapons galore, right? If they just survive, if Hamas just survives and is still active in those areas, they literally, that's a W, man. That's like, you know, putting a fucking 300-pound man with like a 110-pound guy, and then he makes it out. You know, he makes it out alive. He gets beaten up like crazy. He gets his ass kicked, but the dude fights on, right? So you got to respect that shit. This is the exact equivalent. You're talking about Israel, which has, you know, literally the most sophisticated, technologically advanced armaments in the entire world, probably top 5, right? Backed by the United States, NATO, and has an unlimited credit from the United States, the Pentagon, right, for weapons, armaments, supplies, militia. They've had, you know, they even have U.S. People don't want to admit it. The U.S. military on ground, boots on the ground, operating in Gaza, in southern Lebanon. Even though motherfuckers don't want to admit it, that's the damn truth there, right? And for them to be able to survive that just shows that. And this is the worst part about it, is that they didn't even just survive. Like, they hit him back hard as hell. Like, they decimated areas in Tel Aviv. They decimated Haifa. They decimated Kiryat Shmona, right? They are making sure the settlers in the north, the 100,000 of them that fled, they are not coming back. They've already told Netanyahu, we are not coming back, right? So imagine what's going on with the economy over there in northern Israel, right? Absolute ghost town, and it's set to stay like that so as long as, because, you know, these people in Israel, they have dual citizenships, they have different countries they can flock to. So they're pretty much telling them, like, we're not going back until you get rid of Hezbollah, and he's not even fucking close to. Yeah, I don't even think anyone from Hezbollah, like, I think you can, you know, less than 1,000 Hezbollah fighters died this entire 2 months. Like, nothing happened except sheer destruction and targeting of the Lebanese civilians. Okay? Literally, that's what happened with that war. And, you know,
they will claim.
Why do you think Prime Minister Netanyahu opted for this agreement?
A story purportedly from a cabinet meeting that appeared in the foreign press. You see how this works in the foreign press, and then later,
you mean one of those foreign press leaks again? Is it?
Yes, one of those foreign press leaks again. Yeah, one of those foreign press leaks indicated the following: that Bibi felt that in order to head off the Biden administration, repeating what the Obama administration did in the closing weeks of their administration, decided that a ceasefire, any ceasefire,
It really is. Cross their T's and dot their I's.
Of all the control people and send people to trial.
Yep.
Oh shit, man, my mic was off. Anyways, one of the downsides with Hamas, with the ceasefire, obviously, is the fact that in Gaza there is no ceasefire, so Hamas is pretty much fighting on its own at this point, and to their defense, like there's really no more remnants of Hamas except for like hit and run attacks. They actually, I think they're on the ground, they're fighting very effectively. Israel has probably knocked out maybe at most, I wouldn't even put 10,000 as a decent amount, because actually there are studies that have been done. They're saying it was one fighter for every 200 civilians. So you're looking at maybe roughly about 2,000 Hamas fighters were actually taken out by Israel. So there's a huge chunk of them. There's about 30 to 40,000 they estimate. And some of them have probably died, from, I'm sure there's starvation issues and different, polio and all that shit is rampant there. So, they're on the ground, they're still fighting effectively, right? Because we've seen Israel and the IDF go to a particular refugee camp, Jabalia. They've tried to enter like 5 or 6 times, not getting anywhere. The fighters are still doing hit and run attacks. There was 2 days ago, they took out 15 of them. Literally 15 fighters that were in Gaza. So that front seems like, and the real issue there is the civilian population, right? Because really they're the ones that are getting hurt the most, is the civilians. They're being starved, lack of necessities, they're living in tents, they're having to flee everywhere because there's constant bombardment. So, and then you have pussies like the Egyptian president who won't open the fucking border and allow civilians to cross over, or at least get them, so that way they can at least fight, specifically the Hamas fighters who won't cross over to the border, and just at least have them there temporarily until they can get the shit resolved, right? And pieces of shit like the Egyptian president who takes $2.5 billion a year from the USA pretty much to keep his fucking mouth shut. He's not opening the damn border for anyone, right? So this asshole is getting, he's getting billions of dollars to keep his mouth shut, and he sold his ass a long time ago. It's like, dude, just get the civilians out the way, and then you guys could war it out, guerrilla warfare, however you want to, and whatever happens, because they still have a significant amount of them in Gaza, guys. Let's take a look at Suleiman Ahmed's breakdown of what goes on here now, man.
But then that's just at a minimum. Actually, most military analysts said that maybe they need to even take in the air to basically drop off soldiers. And he was a human rights lawyer, but he was chosen to be the leader of the Labour Party, and he was chosen to become the leader of the UK. So the Zionists put him in control. Jeremy Corbyn, who's
all this.
And therefore there'll be so many people who are basically have lost their lives, who've not been registered. It's I mean, we witnessed the biggest, most worst genocide.
Big names that put that out. Muhammad.
I don't even believe that, and therefore by agreeing to the ceasefire, you're kind of ensuring that doesn't happen. If that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. I mean, realistically speaking, right? Yeah, they can't go into Israel and actually help. And at this point, what would you say as far as like where does Hamas stand right now? Do you think that they're significantly destabilized at this point? I mean, I'm under the impression that they're pretty much gone, with a lot of their leadership, pretty much dead now at this point. Do you think they're still alive on life support? What do you say?
Hezbollah or Hamas?
Hamas. I'm talking about Hamas now.
So Hamas.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, is it worth it to support and have people die in Lebanon on behalf of an organization that's pretty much, crippled and destabilized now?
Yeah, I don't think Hamas is crippled or destabilized. I think Hamas on the ground is actually functioning, and hence why Israel's not been able to take the hostages back. What Israel obviously did was, because they killed Yahya Sinwar. You have to remember, like, when they kill Yahya Sinwar, don't think of it as them killing Yahya Sinwar. because Yahya Sinwar was basically acting as a soldier himself. He was on the front lines.
He was.
So just like you can kill any soldier on the front lines, that's basically what happened. They didn't even know it was him, and it took a while to take him out. So in reality, the Hamas is still functioning really well on the ground. Hence why Israel has not been able to take the entirety of it. Hamas has not been taken out. That was one of the objectives, and they've failed in that. What they've been able to do is take certain areas where there is a huge number of civilians and starve those civilians, remove food and humanitarian aid from them, take certain areas where there's civilians, but actually Hamas, they've not been able to dismantle them. And I don't believe that they'll be able to succeed in actually dismantling Hamas. What they may be able to succeed in do is obviously completely ethnic cleansing and genociding everyone, but not in terms of dismantling Hamas, because Hamas is like an ideology which is just continuing to grow.
Okay, all right. I meant more as in like the physical military personnel, because Israel claims that they've killed between 16 and 20,000 of them. Is what they're claiming.
News. They came up with that number because what happened was, if you remember early on, they'd failed to kill hardly any Hamas members, and then we start exposing the fact that they'd killed 200 civilians for every one Hamas member.
Yeah.
And when we started bringing that up and exposing them for it, sorry?
No. I remember that when people were doing the math and figuring out. I think it was some big names that put that out. You, Mohammed Hijab, etc. That for every one Hamas fire, they were killing 200 innocent people.
Exactly. And so when that got exposed, that's when they basically said, oh no, we've killed 10,000, 12,000. What's the evidence? Like, zero evidence to suggest that had happened. How were they able to know who's Hamas and who's a civilian? So that's always been fake in terms of the numbers of Hamas members.
It's funny? Even Piers Morgan asked one of the Israeli spokespeople that said, we've killed 16,000 Hamas fighters. He said, okay, how many innocent people have you killed? And they're like, and then he just like avoided the question. He didn't want to answer. And Pierce was like, well, if you know how many Hamas fighters you've killed, by definition, you should know how many civilians you've killed too.
Right.
The spokesperson didn't want to answer the question.
And unfortunately, I would say it's upwards of at least 200,000 because, and it's just sickening even talking about it, but there are probably people that are buried under the ground that haven't been accounted for. And, there's also a lot of these numbers are coming from the Gaza Health Ministry, and that could be, it could be less than what it really is, so in order to not scare the citizens as much, but I don't know, man, it's a horrible situation what's going on there, and I think that Netanyahu should be sentenced to death, okay, in front of the entire world for this shit. And fuck the ICC, guys. Legit, that guy Kareem Khan, and one thing about him, like I'm glad that they finally came out with the arrest warrants. They had to, and it looks like that in order for all these people to get away from all the crimes that have been committed within the last year, it looks like that Netanyahu and his defense minister are probably gonna end up taking the brunt of it. That's why Netanyahu looks like he's about to fucking have a stroke every time you see him now. The guy's like shitting himself. I mean, he just is pale in the face. Looks like he hasn't slept. The guy's obviously doesn't have much more time to live. Honestly, he's a fucking sick human being. But the ICC Kareem Khan, he actually had visited during this entire year-long stretch. This war, he visited Israel and actually sat down with a lot of the war room and was so I don't trust that guy either. I don't trust him at all. And but it looks like that Netanyahu and the Yoav Golan, the Fall Guys, because as much as people want to say, look, America's still like the most influential country worldwide, so they have influence over the ICC, regardless of what people want to say. So the ICC is, and I'm not over here trying to glorify that, like, oh shit, America's like this, they're over here defending this clown, which we are pretty much, but they could still look, man. Some of these judges and these people that work for the ICC, you could find them ending up dead. They can have hits on them. You could, and he's already, Kareem Khan has been threatened several times. He's actually had to move his family members from different countries. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's in cahoots with the Israeli government along with the Pentagon too, and they're gonna Netanyahu's the fall guy because Netanyahu's a puppet, to be honest with you guys. If you really want to break it down, the guy is a puppet. Here's this guy Dershowitz. Dershowitz been this guy's a pedophile. He's been convicted of sexual pedophilia. He was actually on Epstein's Island. So he's having a fit about the ICC.
The documentation that the Nazis themselves
Alan,
did.
let him finish his point.
Okay, so The Lancet, an independent medical journal, recently published a piece that claimed that 186,000 people have been killed in Gaza. A lot, 70% of those women and children. You're talking about a genocide. And to be honest with you, we have the evidence is in. Yoav Gallant, one of the ministers, or the defense minister that's now sacked, that is one of the recipients of an arrest warrant from the ICC, he went on TV early in the genocide and he said, we are dealing with human animals and we will withdraw all water, food and electricity from 2.3 million people, half of them children. Let me finish. That is genocidal rhetoric, and they carried it out. They've been launching an extermination campaign in northern Gaza, in Jabalia camp, wiping out whole scores of people. There's been massacres every day. 100 people often die every single day. It's clear to the whole world. You are in the minority and the walls are closing in. The walls are closing in. 125 countries, if Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant, who are wanted war criminals, step in, they will be arrested. And thankfully, the ICC saved the reputation of international law, because one of the disgraceful things about the ICC arrest warrants is it took so long. The whole world has been watching this. We all know what's going on. You are the minority. The whole world is appalled by what we are supporting. Can I make one more point? Sorry.
Quickly, yeah.
One thing you said was correct. This is not just Israeli war criminals we're talking about. We're talking about war criminals in London and Washington too. I'm in London now. I want to talk about the participation, not complicity, participation of my own government.
And do you agree that Palestinians have committed war crimes too in the past?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, but the point about the ICC arrest warrants, which is why Alan Dershowitz is having a fit, is because the ICC has always been used against official enemies. It's been a tool of imperialism. And for the first time, we are seeing justice done for Western war criminals and their allies. Can I just make one more point? You, Piers Morgan, were very, very good in 2003. You made the Daily Mirror into something we could be proud of in the British society because of your opposition to the war in Iraq. That Bush and Blair should also have been had arrest warrants for that illegal invasion, which killed up to 1 million people and destroyed the whole country. So we are in new territory in this.
Well, we are. I mean, look, the difference I would make. People have asked me about that before. I did lead the media campaign in this country against the Iraq War, but because the Iraq War was enacted as a revenge for something that Iraq had nothing to do with, and I just thought that was completely outrageous and should never have happened. Which is now really what the perceived wisdom about that war is. So they're two different things.
This is a war against the United States.
Hang on, Alan. Let me bring in Jonathan, who's been waiting patiently. Jonathan, you're a former IDF spokesperson. I've had you on the show many times. Do you mind if I call you spokesman, by the way? Because I can't stand all this person crap. So I'm going to call you spokesman, if that's all right.
Piers,
you identify as a man, do you? I mean, I have to check that. I think you look like a man to me, Jonathan.
In this day and age, we do have to check. But yes, I'm comfortable being
a spokesman.
Called man and he. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, indeed.
Look, whatever you think of this decision by the ICC, it is, as Matt just said, it's a highly significant moment that they have chosen to do this. Do you accept that?
Yeah, I think it is, and I think it's sad, and I think that terror supporters and Israel haters all over the world, they're having their moment of joy and enjoying the sun and enjoying seeing Israel suffering. They're enjoying to seeing this tremendous travesty, this injustice, this perversion of the international judicial system by the hands of a very suspicious and I would say controversial prosecutor who I don't know what his motives are, but I don't think that his motives are correct and clean motives. And I think that the process has been a totally flawed one. I think that all of the allegations are based on false and partial information. And I think that there is substantial proof, credible proof, even verified by non-Israeli sources, that totally contradict all of the allegations.
But that's the problem
you
again,
can't
Jonathan.
say
Jonathan,
that Israel
Jonathan,
has been.
hang on,
Hold on. Just this point.
Yeah, but hang on. The problem is,
just this point,
you say that.
just
Again, we
finish that
come back.
point,
We come back
Piers.
to the media being
Yeah, but
banned
just this
from
point.
going in there. If you don't let the media in, then
I
I'm
know
afraid,
that.
as a
Yeah, I
journalist,
know
I'm
that,
like,
Piers.
what are they hiding?
Yeah. And we've had this conversation in the past, Piers, and I said that the same thing that I'm going to say to you now, that I think that you have a point, and I've recommended for the IDF and the Israeli government to allow more media in.
But there's a reason they're not doing it.
Without that,
I agree.
well, I'm sure that there are reasons. A, that it's messy. B, that it's quite a logistical responsibility.
Well, sorry, but that doesn't apply to other war zones.
Wise.
That didn't apply in Iraq. It didn't apply in Afghanistan. It hasn't applied in any modern war zone that I can think of. The IDF has completely controlled this whole war in Gaza.
Piers,
and by not letting the media in, I'm afraid the longer it goes on, where the IDF don't let media in from around the world to actually verify what they claim is happening there, then the more that people are going to think there is no smoke without fire. And when you get the ICC now launching these charges, they're going to put those two things together, and Israel is going to be suffering, as it is. So my question again, as someone who represented the IDF, is it is an act of self-harm unless they are literally covering up war crimes.
Can I just add one thing quickly?
Piers,
they've killed 188 Palestinian journalists.
They have killed a lot of Palestinians.
So that is part of the same. That's part of the same reason. They're covering up the genocide. That's why they won't let them in. That's why they're killing.
I'll bring you back in.
That's an important point.
And if viewers are wondering where Katie's gone, we lost the connection. We're going to get her back. So it is two people from both sides. We're not trying to overload against Matt here, but Matt, until Katie's back, I'll come back to you after John.
Can you just ask him to defend how 188 journalists...
Well, it is certainly true. Look, it's certainly true and relevant.
Do not interrupt.
It's relevant to that.
You are.
Yeah, but Jonathan, it's relevant to the media debate part of this. That nearly 200
if I could just answer the question.
Hang on, I will. But on that point, I'm just saying,
so,
on the media point, nearly 200 Palestinian journalists have been killed.
Targeted and killed.
Let's speak about so-called Palestinian journalists. Let's speak about the outrage of international journalists and international media when it comes to so-called Palestinian journalists. Let's speak about the cooperation, the intense and systemic cooperation between so-called Palestinian photo and otherwise journalists and Hamas. Let's speak about the ties between them. Let's speak about how they have been working for Hamas, providing them with either information or being on their payroll, or being silenced by them, or being told by Hamas what to say and what to do for years. I know this for a fact because I've seen it happen in real time, where international stringers or Palestinians that have been working for international media organizations in Gaza, instead of doing their job of reporting about the horrible war crimes that Hamas has been perpetrating, of hiding behind civilians, of using civilians as human shields, of firing...
All right, man, I'm tired of hearing this guy's talking points, man. There's rarely talking points. We're honestly getting sick of your bullshit. Like, I can't believe this guy could sit there and bullshit all fucking day like that. Holy crap. So Joe Biden is providing Ukraine with some fucking nuclear weapons, guys. This comes... so this was actually just announced... maybe a few days ago
that the U.S. had authorized attacks.
That moron Biden, well, it's not him, it's his handlers. He's planning on providing Ukraine with nuclear weapons, guys. This changes the entire dynamic of the NATO. This is a Ukraine, never had, was not a nuclear nation, was never even supposed to be part of NATO, and now they are sending nukes to Ukraine. And the world is in absolute fucking chaos. Europe is preparing for some serious escalation. And this absolute moron of a president or a leader, for that matter, is now, is obviously owned and operated by the military-industrial complex and these elitists who are these globalists who are perpetrating all this that is going on in the rest of the world. Now he's taking it to another level, and I really don't think, and Putin, a lot of people say, oh, Putin's bluffing. I think Putin's giving it some time. He's just, he's trying to see exactly what the outcome is going to be, especially since now there's the Trump administration, and he's probably giving them up until Trump gets into his to inauguration day, till, he's about to let loose on all of Europe and NATO. And the guy's recruiting fighters now from North Korea, China, and now Yemen. There are fighters from Yemen, Iranian-backed rebels, who are on the front lines in Russia. So this looks like, and you see it's kind of crazy how you see the dynamic, the two sides kind of coming together now. So you're getting a clearer picture of what World War III is going to look like.
Russia with long-range missiles, and shortly thereafter, the Bryansk region of Russia was attacked. So for Russia's argument is that this crosses a line, that the United States then becomes now a direct participant in the war. And they are now very vocal about their intention to retaliate. So, I was wanting really to ask a bit wider question. That is, what is going on, and how are you interpreting the decision to attack Russia in this way, and also the ambiguity, because there doesn't seem to be much of a confirmation, even though the attack has already occurred.
Glenn, thank you. This idea of suddenly providing long-range strike weapons to reach targets inside Russia is analogous in military terms to giving a heart patient that is already close to death a haircut and a shave, and insist that this somehow or another will improve the state of the patient. The patient is already on life support and will die, regardless of what we do at this stage. That's the sad truth. Ukraine is now in worse condition than it's ever been, and even Zelensky admitted that if the aid from the United States ceased, it would be over. So the Russians are puzzled by our behavior, because obviously President Trump won the election. Keep in mind that our globalist friends that are ruling the West these days, whether it's Germany, France, or anywhere in Europe for the most part, and then in the United States, harp constantly on this thing of democracy, and have pretended that somehow or another Trump's election would end democracy. Yet they show nothing but contempt for democracy. We just had an election. The vast majority of Americans have absolutely no interest in going to war with anyone, least of all with Russia, which is the one power on the planet that has the strength and the capability to destroy us, as I think we all know. So this is a sort of a refutation of democracy here inside the United States by the people that try to identify themselves with it. I think at the same time in Europe, unless I'm very, very wrong, the Germans in particular are apoplectic. That is, we would say they are beside themselves in their opposition to going to war with Russia. And Scholz very recently said he would provide nothing more to the Ukrainians. All of a sudden now he's decided he's going to release some number of unmanned systems, I guess. And of course, the government in London is permanently off its meds and out of therapy. And I think as a result, this man Starmer is a committed globalist who wants to wage war in perpetuity against Russia. When he's been questioned, don't you realize this could put us in the United Kingdom in jeopardy? He just dismisses it out of hand. The same thing is true for Macron. Macron is hanging on by his fingernails politically. I think Stormer will be thrown out of office. He may actually face a rebellion inside his own, not only in Ukraine, but in their own fighting retreat. It's insane.
Yeah, because overall, the American public has tended to
Guys, if you guys think the war in the Middle East is crazy, man, this war here, and it is crazy because you have more civilians obviously dying in the Middle East and Europe, but you have at least they're estimating about 1 million militants on both sides, Russia and Ukraine, have died. And more so, it's more heavily on, obviously weighed on the Ukrainian side, where you have, they're pretty much just going in there and being shredded to death. It's an absolute meat grinder when they enter Russian territory, guys. I've watched videos that are heavily being censored on X and some of these other sites where Ukrainian fighters are falling left and right, like absolute. It was almost kind of, mind-boggling to watch. Just you see 300 grown men, right, literally just dying within the span of 2 minutes of just Russian gunfire. And you could tell the Russians they're just way more trained, better equipped, and it looks like the Ukrainians got zero training, with guerrilla warfare. The Russians were in there, and I was watching a particular video. One dude took out like 30 people. The guy, I don't know if he was on drugs or something, but it was like a tunnel situation. It was like a fight, guerrilla war fight. So it's really being undocumented, right? It's being underreported too. We don't really hear about it as much, but at least they're saying upwards of 500,000 to 1 million militants have died fighting theirs, and it's absolutely destructive and crazy to think about, right? So, and Russia has, they have millions of people in their military. See, everybody wants to, and look, I'm not hating on the United States, but at most we have 400,000 people that they can call on, foot soldiers. China has at least 2 million, Russia at least 2 million plus. Iran probably has as much as we do, probably even more. I don't know how the hell the United States and NATO is planning on fighting in 3 different fronts. I still don't understand that shit. One in Iran, one obviously in the Middle East, if shit gets out of control, one in East Asia, one in Europe. We're literally going to be shredded alive. And this is all for, and there's, and all military analysts have studied this and said this is going to be a historic loss for the United States and NATO if they do get involved in a world war. And if it goes nuclear, that's, everybody loses, right? So how the fuck is the United States supposed to win without going nuclear? That's like that's the shit that you think about. You're like, holy shit, like this shit is, these people are fucking animals, man. They're just fucking crazy. Oh, man. Yeah, giving Ukraine nuclear weapons. I mean, that's absolutely. There's a. Let me pull this up, man.
Elapsed time.
Look at this fucking video here, man. This is a AI generated video of what would happen There's a nuclear war simulator app, man. Like, look at this shit, bro.
2 hours. 3 hours. 4 hours. 5 hours. 6 hours. 7 hours.
Holy fucking shit.
9 hours. 10 hours. 11 hours. 12 hours. 13 hours.
Global casualties.
14 hours. 15 hours. 16 hours. 17 hours. 18 hours. 19 hours. 20 hours. 21 hours. 22 hours.
Ah, fuck.
23 hours. 24 hours. Total global casualties at 178 million people. Losses of nations engaged at war. NATO member states have lost 9.1% of their total population. The Russian Federation has lost 62.9% of its total population. Stage 2, nuclear fallout. Elapsed time: 3 days.
Holy shit.
6 days. 9 days. 12 days. 15 days. 18 days. 21 days. 24 days. 27 days. 30 days. Maximum radiation levels recorded, shown by degrees of latitude, in REM units. Total global casualties at 186 million people. Stage 3, nuclear winter. Elapsed time: 2 months. 3 months. 4 months. 5 months. 6 months. 7 months. 8 months. 9 months. 10 months. Minimum temperature recorded, shown by degrees of latitude, in Celsius degrees. Total global casualties at 548 million people.
548 million people in a nuclear war. It'd be a nuclear holocaust, guys, in 10 months. 178 projected dead in 24 hours in a NATO-Russia nuke scenario. Man, fuck out of here, guys. And people are sitting there playing around with this shit, like Joe Biden giving Ukraine nuclear weapons. Like, are you fucking out of your damn mind? Like, literally, we'd probably be, and this is the worst part about it, is we wouldn't even know that we're dead. Like, it, you know, right when the shit drops in a major city like Washington, D.C. or L.A., for example, you know, you're instantly dead. You know, there's no, you don't even know what the fuck happened, right? It's wild. Anyways, man, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, man.